Chopin's Etude No. 1 is in C major and is influenced by Bach's Prelude No. 1 in the well-tempered clavier. In both pieces, arpeggios are used to create a texture in the piece. First, let's hear the Bach Prelude. Now let's compare that to Chopin's Etude No. 1. The contrast is evident. Bach sounds angelic and quite peaceful, while Chopin sounds dramatic and strong. Chopin completely changed the way the pianist plays the piano forever. Up until then, piano players never had to reach more than an octave of notes in any composition. The arpeggios were, for the most part, used within an octave. Mozart extended the range of the arpeggios as much as 2 octaves, but not the finger reach. They were still only an octave apart. Beethoven used arpeggios with a moving bass line to create this anxiety, as in the last movement of the Moonlight Sonata. He extends the range of the arpeggios to a full 3 octaves. You can feel the anxiety. It is as if the arpeggios are trying to break free. I visualize a prisoner trying to escape from a prison with the warden chasing after him, and all of a sudden he hits the electric fence. Now is a good time as any to describe storylines in music. Clearly, the story I visualized when I played this piece is not what Beethoven thought when he composed this piece. There was no electricity and therefore no electric fences. But I need a visual cue to create the mood. I need to have that accentuated note that sneaks up on you. So I create this picture to be able to express an idea in music. If I thought of another storyline for this, I would probably alter the playing of this piece. Okay. Back to the first etude. Chopin comes along and extends the arpeggio to a 10th instead of an octave. An octave has 8 notes of the scale in between the 2 notes. So between this lower C and this upper C, there are 8 notes. Now, a 10th has 10 notes in between them. And look at the extension of my hand to reach that 10th. So your hand has to extend to a 10th within an arpeggio. Now let's do that fast. A very difficult task to do indeed. You have to learn a brand new technique, which is how to extend and contract your hand and relax it. After hearing this piece, one person commented that you could play Chopin etudes, but you'd need a hand surgeon afterwards because of these extensions. They thought Chopin had a strange hand like the violinist Paganini, who is known for his abnormally long, thin fingers. Chopin, however, didn't have a large hand at all. What he had was a very flexible hand, and he was teaching his students how to create that same flexibility in their own hands. He taught the students hand exercises to develop a lot of flexibility and wrist relaxation so that a difficult etude like this would sound easy rather than strained. As a side note, the keys on the piano of Chopin's time were a little bit narrower, so the stretch was not as wide as our modern-day pianos. However, that means that he would have to be far more accurate when hitting the notes, so there is a trade-off. Now, here is something else very cool about this etude. The opening measure uses the following notes. This is an overtone series of C. By using the overtone series, Chopin creates this big, broad tone on the piano for these arpeggios. So what is an overtone series? When a musical string is struck, it creates a wave based on the length of the string. So both the strings struck and those strings in the same harmonic tone also vibrate, creating a resonant sound, or an overtone series. Now let's do a little experiment. I'm going to lift the damper on the octave above the C note I'm going to play. Let's see what happens. Notice you hear the string vibrate. Well, maybe this works with all the keys on the piano. Let's test that theory by lifting the hammer of a note that is not on the harmonic series. Say, for example, the A string above that C note. Nothing. The string does not vibrate. So this shows that the two keys are harmonically connected. So now when we lift the pedal and play Chopin's first etude, we get a lot of power because the first note also sounds the overtone series. And as we play this overtone series, the sound keeps building and building. So the sound sustains longer and is much more powerful. Now, in order to play this etude without getting carpal tunnel syndrome, you have to totally be flexible in your hand. There can be no tension whatsoever. And you have to relax the hand when it contracts. Once you master this technique, the effect is like a waterfall cascading. I think of it as a bunch of horses running around the track. One note, since Chopin introduced this tenth into this etude, composers started using it regularly in their compositions. Listen to the opening movement of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. It is a beautiful tenth that creates this special mood. Chopin continues where the Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata started. It frees the arpeggios while packing a lot of emotion into the piece. This is a completely new technique that didn't exist before Chopin. Listen how these tenths create a powerful piano piece.